The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
It is December 29th as we're recording the show. Had a Christmas week going on. How was your Christmas, Warren?
Oh, it was fine. I did get some socks.
Oh.
I got some underwear.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it worked out good for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
I got a horrible flu for Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
It was fucking horrible. I had 2 days off. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy myself, have a little turkey at my mom's house. Christmas Eve, went to my dad's for Christmas Eve dinner. Got the whole divorced parent thing, so I have to do the two holidays.
I do that too.
These modern times we live in.
Yeah.
And went over there, and they always have this kind of buffet style, all these like finger foods, and you just
people are just coughing all over that stuff, left and right.
Well, there was a thing of cocktail shrimp and the cocktail sauce.
Yeah.
And I love shrimp.
Yeah.
And so I was just like gorging myself on these shrimp. And then, I don't know, we got done about 8 o'clock. I went home. And by the time I got home, I was like rolling around in my bed. My stomach was all bloated and distended, and I was like,
oh my,
coughing up stomach acid and just like feeling horrible and getting all shaky and sweaty.
Well, I saw a post on Facebook about you having food poisoning.
Well, I was convinced that's what it was initially because, you know, I felt fine, ate all this shrimp, and then I was rolling around in my bed at home dying. And finally, by about 10 o'clock, as I had to lay on my back because I couldn't put any pressure on my stomach because it was in such pain. And then suddenly I was like, ugh, and ran into the bathroom and was the most violently ill I think I've ever been in my entire life.
Really?
I was trying to remember the last time I'd thrown up from being sick, and it's been a long, long time. But even then, if I've had a stomach flu or something like that, you know, you're like, and you throw up and you feel better afterwards, and you're like, okay, that wasn't too bad. This time, I ran into the bathroom, barely made it to the toilet in time, and threw up with such violence that it was like splashing back into the toilet and like getting all over my face.
Really?
I was just like, oh, just this projectile vomiting. And it was the kind of thing where I would heave a few times like, ah! Then I would stop for a second and like catch my breath and just like, oh God. Oh my God. And then again, like, vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. It was ridiculous.
That sounds like food poisoning.
It seemed like it. And then pretty much all night long, I would crawl into my bed and I was all like sweaty and shaky. And then I'd get up again and vomit some more. And then, I don't know, I think I finally got to bed at about 5 a.m. Christmas morning. And then I was supposed to go over to my mom's for scones in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God. And so I managed to crawl over there late and was just sitting there trying to keep myself from throwing up.
Did you have any scones?
No, I did not have any scones. I had a piece of toast. And then all my siblings and I all had tickets to go to Django Unchained because it was opening on Christmas. And I was like, God damn it, because I couldn't get a refund because I'd gotten my ticket through Fandango. So I'm like, all right, we'll go see the movie. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't tell you if it was any good because the whole time I was just fighting back the urge to vomit. And I had this horrible pounding headache. And it was just like rocking back and forth in my chair.
Huh.
It was miserable.
Flu then, huh? If it lasts for that long.
Maybe. I don't know. And then I got home and I was supposed to go to my mom's for Christmas dinner and I just couldn't go. And basically, so the only thing I had to eat of all the bounty that you would normally have during Christmas was a piece of toast. And I didn't eat another meal until I think the day after Christmas. I finally had, I think, a burrito on that evening.
Burrito. The traditional day after Christmas burrito.
That's what the Catholics would do.
Yeah.
So it was fun. And I've basically been sick the whole rest of the week, and I'm sort of feeling better today. I haven't vomited anything recently, and I'm actually eating meals again, so...
Oh, these are all steps in the right direction.
Yeah, so it's been fun. Happy fucking Christmas.
I didn't have anything that great happen to me. I just sat around, played with my sister's dog, pet the dog, a bunch. watch basketball, because there are many basketball games on all day. And had our traditional turkey loaf.
Loaf?
Yes.
What?
Well, it's this Jenny O giant nugget of turkey.
This is what you eat for Christmas dinner?
Yes.
What is
And you
wrong with
slice
you
it up, and you have little slices of this like loaf of turkey. I love it.
They don't make a real turkey?
No, we could, but that's what we want. My siblings and I have grown accustomed to this loaf.
Well, I know. I don't know if I think I've talked about this before on the show. When I would go to your house for dinner as a kid, you guys would always have beefaroni or like
it wasn't always the best.
Strange canned things, or like I remember crushed up saltines at one point on something. I don't know. I don't even know what the meal was. And because my mom has always been a really good cook and like a very traditional cook. And so I got used to that as a child, and then I'd go to other people's houses, and there'd be just these weird adulterated versions of things that I had been used to eating as a child.
Lots of stuff just kind of like slopped together and thrown out there.
Yeah.
And then if you're eating like that most of the time, I guess you get pretty excited when you get the turkey loaf, you know?
Right.
You're like, oh, good, this is good.
Well, and I guess you develop a taste for the strange preservative-filled canned goods. Did you eat a lot of Spam as a child?
No, I've never had Spam.
I've never had Spam either.
I know. I always think it would be a good thing to try.
Yeah,
I don't know why I have never tried. It's not. I don't think it's very expensive. I probably could pick some up.
No. It's just very popular in Hawaii for some reason.
Yes, if you go to Hawaii, you can buy Spam at McDonald's. Different Spam breakfasts, I know. Yeah, I'd like to give that a shot. Nobody, like my brother-in-law, he's like asking me, he's like, what are we having for Christmas dinner? I'm like, oh, we're having the turkey loaf. I was very excited. He goes, he wasn't happy about it. You know what I mean?
Well, of course not.
Because he got the turkey loaf much later in life. He's like, what is this? And we're sitting around eating this.
If you're used to a fucking roasted turkey shoved with stuffing shoved up its ass, and like white meat and dark meat and gravy and all the good shit,
you don't
somebody
want just
throws a loaf in front of you.
No, but we love the loaf in my family. It's just it's what you get used to.
It sounds so white trash, but your family wasn't white trash.
We weren't rich or anything, so we got loaves.
Well, neither were we.
The other thing I really like is like cranberry sauce out of the can, of course.
I actually prefer that to real cranberries.
Well, that's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And then people that have grown up in maybe more hoity-toity situations, they'll be like, look at it with the stain, just like, what are you doing? You can't eat this. This is disgusting. And I'm like, no, this is great. Give me a loaf of turkey, and I'll put some of this canned cranberry sauce on top of it, and I'll be really happy.
I'm imagining the loaf of turkey looking like a loaf of bread that even has a little split down the middle.
Well, no, it doesn't. It comes out, and it is like a loaf of bread. It looks like a loaf of bread, but it has like kind of like fat dripping off of it and stuff.
So is it pre-cooked?
So you could I think it is. It is pre-cooked, but it's frozen.
Yeah.
So you take it and it's in its little loaf pan. You just put it in the oven for a couple hours. You got yourself a loaf.
That is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
I think there's a dark meat and a light meat version of the loaf. But the loaf is actually harder to get nowadays. I used to just make the loaf for myself occasionally.
Yeah.
And I would go to our local grocery stores. Not available a lot of them anymore. I think people are phasing out the loaves.
Well, it would make Christmas dinner a lot easier if you just unwrap a loaf and put it in the oven.
Yeah.
Because my mom is for hours,
shoving
her hand
it's a
up the
simpler
turkey's
thing, right?
ass and doing all this crap.
Yeah, it's just throw the loaf in the oven and you pull out the loaf and slice it up and you're good to go.
Wow. So last week you teased us, telling us that the Victorian Dandies were in the final game, the championship game of your Fairy Tale Football League.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, as I left the recording studio here and was walking home, I checked the status of my team. It looked very good. I know I mentioned last week that the only thing that was going to be left in the evening was Marshawn Lynch playing for my opponent.
Right, beast mode.
So I was ahead by 32 points.
Ooh.
So it was just quite a deficit for him to overcome. So I felt this joy. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, actually.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that as I was walking along. I was like, this is odd, but it was very, very satisfying. I was very pleased, very excited about it. And then I went home and I thought I'd relax and watch the Sunday Night Football game. Unfortunately, Beast Mode Marshawn Lynch went on some sort of unprecedented thing where he scored 2 touchdowns very quickly in the first quarter.
The Seahawks kicked the shit out of San Francisco.
And
last week, by the way.
I started losing my mind, turned off the game, and did not watch it. And then just waited until the end and checked, and I had just barely won. So I snuck in, but I am the champion. The Victorian Dandies are champions.
So are you going to be defending your title next year?
Oh, I'll be defending it.
I've known some Fairy Tale football leagues, whoever wins the championship gets booted out of the league for a year, and they're not allowed to play the next year.
I've never heard of that. Really?
I think that's a good rule.
That's a bizarre rule.
It's hilarious.
To kick out the champion?
Yeah, because everyone's, fuck you. Yeah, I think that's amusing. So how much money did you rake in?
I think I get something like $200.
Ooh.
I don't really remember.
Wow.
But it's better than nothing.
I could see how that would make sports. I mean, because I don't pay any attention to sports at all. And I might if I were in a football league, but then at the same time, since I know nothing about it, I doubt I would win ever. Because people would just be, I don't know how the whole draft works and stuff, but they'd be
that's the thing about it. It's actually it's simple. It's so, there's automation involved. And everything like tells you what's going to happen, and it tells you who's better than who, and everything's ranked for you. So even if you were just some guy that didn't understand it, you just put the guys in that were predicted to have more points than the other guys, or the guys that are rated against the other guys, and you can still win. It's mostly luck.
Okay.
I'm the winner. I'm the champion. As I just mentioned, the champion. But I still will acknowledge that it's mostly just luck. You just kind of limp into it.
Well, don't steal from your victory, Warren. You are the champion.
I'm being very modest, though. You know what I mean?
You are. Well, that's what you should say.
Yeah, I know. I'm being very modest in victory. I'm not like, shouting from the mountaintop that I'm the greatest fantasy football player ever, even though it's possible. I mean, if I keep winning, I might be the greatest.
Well, you're a true gentleman.
Thank you.
Since I was sick this week, I didn't have much opportunity to go out and be irritated by people.
Yeah.
I did go to the store again and ran into some Japanese people. Whenever I see Japanese people, I have to go up and look at them.
That's nice for them. Yeah.
Observe them.
Yeah.
So there were these two Japanese girls looking at salsa. They're in the salsa aisle, or the Hispanic food section of the grocery store.
Oh, they must just have been flummoxed by this.
Well, it was funny because I heard them speaking in Japanese, so of course my ears perked up, and they were like, "Oh, non desu ka?" Like looking at salsa, and I could hear them say medium or mild, every once in a while. They're looking at the salsa, and of course my Japanese isn't good enough. I wanted to be well, excuse me, do you have a question about this salsa, and in Japanese or something, but
you just sound like a handicated Japanese person talking
exactly
to them.
Or you
couldn't actually help them that much,
a mentally deficient 2-year-old Japanese boy. So I didn't, but I was staring at them for a while, and then this older woman came up and she heard them speaking in Japanese, and she's sort of giving them these sidelong glances, like she was really upset or worried about what was going on.
She probably thought they were illegal immigrants.
What's going on? These nips in this store. What's happening? And I don't know how old you'd have to be to still be angry about World War II, but
you'd have to be pretty old at this point.
Yeah, and I think even if you were that old, you probably wouldn't be able to differentiate one Asian from the next.
It could be some Korean War. It could be some Vietnam sentiment left over, Yeah.
But she said something under her breath, kind of derogatory. I couldn't hear exactly what she was saying, but she said something sort of like, and so I, being gallant,
rather than letting something go that those people didn't hear at all.
No. Well, I didn't even say anything specifically about what she had said or about the Japanese people, but I very purposefully
punched her in the face,
knocked my little cart into her cart.
Oh, jeez.
And it went ksh, 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 and then I gave her a look like, better leave those Japanese people alone. And she knew what I meant.
No, she didn't. That was insane. That was a crazy thing to do.
But I could imagine that the Japanese people, even though they didn't say anything in words, and they probably don't have the
couldn't figure
English
out
words.
what kind of salsa they were going to buy. And you're talking about someone who muttered something under their breath that you couldn't even understand as an English speaker.
Yeah.
And then rather than respond in any sort of overt way to that, you suddenly smashed her cart and then gave her a look.
She was probably just angry about the price of something.
Yeah, there's no way anyone in that, that triangle of people understood anything that was going on there.
Just let it be known right now that if anyone insults Japanese people in my hearing, you better watch out.
You're going to smash your cart into them.
This might happen.
And then you might look at them. But, you were staring at the Japanese girls, too, so who knows what they were thinking. I just picture you at the end of the aisle just ogling them.
I'm good at staring at people without appearing. I have a
Did you pretend you were looking at some,
lazy
taco shells or something?
Well, I was very interested in the salsa as well, and I kept picking up different bottles and looking at the ingredients.
You could figure it out?
Well, I was pretending to be stupid.
What kind of salsa do you buy if you buy a salsa?
I never buy salsa. But if I do, I buy paste picante sauce, because it's made in San Antonio.
Yeah, not New York City.
Jesus Christ. Another amusing thing that happened. At one point, I was driving my vehicle. I have a black truck.
Yeah.
Known as the Black Beauty. You have to have a name for your truck.
Yeah.
And at one point, sometimes she gets a little spirited when you hit the old acceleration pedal.
Oh, you're blaming this on Black Beauty?
Well, she has
at different times it goes faster or slower.
She has a
based on the attitude of Black Beauty.
She has a mind of her own. And I was at a stoplight, and the light turned green, and I pressed on. It's because sometimes I'm not always shifting as smoothly as I need to be shifting.
Yeah, that's probably what.
And so she went and
bucked a little bit.
She lurched forward a little bit, and I didn't realize that anyone was driving next to me at the time in the other lane, and my window was open. And so when she spiritedly jumped at the green light, I whinnied. I went, and then I went, ha, 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 and patted the dashboard and was like, oh, easy now, girl.
Yeah.
And then looked to my right, and there was somebody in another car, like this old Saturn, And he gave me just the most disgusted look you could ever imagine, and just shook his head. He was kind of pacing me the entire time, just repeatedly looking over at me, and just, he was just so disgusted by what he had seen. And he went and he was talking to his passenger, and then his passenger was looking over at me, and they're both just shaking their head and so disappointed in my behavior.
We're all a little edgy about the mentally ill right now.
Well, and so the way to diffuse the situation, I just put the biggest shit-eating grin on my face that I could, and then opened my eyes as wide as humanly possible and stared at them for a while, and then they drove away.
Yeah, they were right to do that. Who knows what you were going to do next?
I was just driving my car. I was talking to my car.
The shootings in Connecticut, the shootings in upstate New York. Somebody pushed somebody in front of a subway train again yesterday.
I heard about that, yeah.
That's the second time in a month. Yeah. Some crazy person just pushed somebody. You know what I mean? We're all a little worried right now.
Yeah. I'm the least of their concerns right now, I think.
No, you're on your way.
Something that should worry you, Warren.
Uh-oh.
When I was at the bagelry today, I was peering out at the people walking by on the sidewalk, and from about half a block away, I noticed a woman approaching hand in hand with a man.
Uh-oh.
And I I know. And I did a double take because I was like, that's Warren's girlfriend.
Yeah.
This is from like half a block away, so it's possible, okay, I could be mistaken.
Yeah.
She approached closer, closer, closer. She had the same walk. She had the same clothing. Those of you who don't know Warren's girlfriend, this will mean nothing. But Warren knows her. So
I do know her.
So he's shocked and appalled right now. It was her. I could have sworn up and down that it was her. And then they stopped in front of the bagelry and started making out. And I went, oh!
That's odd, isn't it?
Yes.
That's just odd behavior in general.
Well, I think they were departing at that point.
Oh, they're like separating.
Yeah. And I was convinced it was her. And I was watching this happening. I was like, oh my God, that's my friend's girlfriend. And I had this righteous anger.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, should I call Warren? Should I tell him that his girlfriend is making out with? And this guy was one of those people with he was those irritating dudes with the shaved, he's bald, but he shaved his head and he's got an earring.
Yeah.
And he wears those jeans that are like tight on the thighs, but then kind of flare out.
Oh, those are the worst.
Like those boots that have straps all over them and shit like that. Oh, I just want to smack him. It's like, oh, look at this douchebag making out with Warren's girlfriend. And I was convinced it was her. She looked so much like her. And then finally, when she actually walked into the bagelry and I went, and stared at her, then I finally realized it wasn't her.
Well, speaking of the descent into mental illness, if you had actually texted me at some point about this and I was sitting there with my girlfriend watching basketball, she would have probably gave me a look like, there you go. You know what I mean? Why,
is she constantly telling you to stop hanging around with...
No, she's just, like most listeners, I think, she maybe a little bit concerned about your health with seeing cans of soda moving and stuff like that.
Talking to the truck.
I will say that I know there is someone that looks like me.
I've seen a you.
Yeah, there's a guy that looks like me roaming around town that people have had conversations with, and the person has been confused about why they were calling them Warren, and then they've walked away. I have never seen this guy, but apparently he's out and about. So
it's weird, recognition depends on so many other things other than just looks. There's the way people carry themselves. Like, there's certain friends who I can see from 2 blocks away, and I can see their back and just the way they're standing. I'm like, okay, this is my friend. And I was, not to sound insulting, but your girlfriend has a certain unique walk that she does. It's uniquely hers.
It's a heavy tread.
She treads.
She steps very hard.
She does.
She's like an aggressive walker.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she had that. She had the same skirt. Your girlfriend wears skirts a lot.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
I like it.
Your girlfriend needs to find this person, and they have to fight to the death at some point.
I'd like to match this girl up with my doppelganger that's out there and maybe get them together.
Yeah.
Oh, this is another great screenplay. No one steal this idea. I'm sending it to Hollywood.
We've got a lot of good ideas going on here.
Sodium makes you retain water. Oh, they never want to listen when you talk about the girls at work you hate. And when you actually feel like loving, all they want to do is masturbate. 'Cause that's what men like. Whoa, that's what men like.
That's right, it's everybody's favorite new feature, That's What Men Are Like. This week, we have an interesting story coming out of Iowa. Iowa dental assistant fired for being too attractive. Let's get into the story here. A dentist acted legally when he fired an assistant that he found attractive simply because he and his wife viewed the woman as a threat to their marriage. The all-male Iowa Supreme Court ruled Friday.
That's irrelevant. I want that stricken from the record.
Completely irrelevant. The basic gist of the story is there was a dental assistant working for a Fort Dodge, Iowa dentist named James Knight. They had worked together for over 10 years.
Right? Yeah.
The employee, Melissa Nelson, was a dental hygienist, worked in his dental office. She's 32 years old. They worked together for 10 years, and he considered her a stellar worker. But he said that she was so attractive that his wife, who also worked in the dental office, was threatened and thought that eventually her being there might lead to the husband, James Knight, committing a infidelity.
Yeah.
And so he fired her.
Yeah. To save his marriage.
To save his marriage. Nelson was obviously angered by this, said that she was only fired because she was female. If she'd been male, she wouldn't have been fired. She sued. The case eventually went to the Iowa State Supreme Court, and as we said, all-male judges deemed the firing was appropriate and was not based on discrimination. Warren, what are your feelings on
it wasn't based on her gender. She wasn't fired specifically because she was a female. Mm-hmm. She was fired because she was a threat to his marriage.
She wasn't fired because she was female. She was fired because she was supposedly an attractive female.
Yes. And that's not against the law in Iowa.
Okay, we can parse this a little bit, I guess. You can say you're allowed to have preferential treatment towards family members, let's say, in a workplace. Okay. And so I guess you could say that he was, in order to keep his wife happy, who was also an employee of the dental office, that he fired this employee who annoyed his wife. Basically, this is just complete misogynism on the part of the dentist firing this woman.
This is the sort of nuanced view that I take of this.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have been fired, obviously.
No.
If her work performance was acceptable,
yes.
He should just not be threatened. His wife shouldn't be threatened.
Well, and it's basically, if you read further on in the story, apparently they started exchanging text messages that to her supposedly were just friendly.
Yeah.
And she apparently thought of him as a father figure. He was 53. She was 32. At one point, he had made some comment to her saying that she had remarked that her sex life was very sporadic and infrequent. And he had said, "That's like having a Lamborghini in the garage and never driving it." I added the laughing at the end. But basically, he's some sleazy fucker with an old fat wife. And there's a woman who, we were looking at the picture here, she's all right. She's 32, I'm sure much thinner than the wife. And because he is a sleazy fucker and can't stop thinking about screwing her, she has to be fired.
It could be that, or it could be the fact that the wife was so threatened.
Yes.
And he was getting nagged to death about it.
But the point of the story was that he felt that it would be impossible for him to avoid committing some infidelity at some point. So basically, it's his behavior. It had nothing to do with her. She was just working in the office with this weird old man, and he's such a nice, friendly old man. I think of him as a father. Well, meanwhile, he's like, I'm going to ram it up her so hard. And his wife is, well, that's what he's
thinking. This is Iowa. Come on.
All right. I'm going to cut a hole in a sheet, and we're going to go
That all being said, I still think it's okay for him to fire her.
Well, let's get to the broader "that's what men are like" realm of this story. Basically, what this is showing us is that, at least in Iowa, it's okay for men to say, "Hey, I can't help myself. I'm completely a slave to my urges. If there's candy in the candy dish, I'm going to have to take a piece. It's not my fault."
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you're right.
I don't know if
that's basically
that
what
was what the ruling said anything about a candy dish. But
well, the candy dish wasn't explicitly mentioned, but it was implied.
But can you see it from his perspective in a certain way? He wants to remain faithful to his wife of many years. Mm-hmm. This woman being around is causing, him anguish, his wife anguish, But this is, maybe he perceived this as the move that was like the loyal move to his wife and family. This is the move that he needed to do rather than, so he wasn't tempted anymore.
Right. Well, okay. Let's say you're a 53-year-old dentist and your 53-year-old wife is working with you in the dentist's office, and you hire some 21-year-old amazing hot dental hygienist right out of college, and she is flirting with you incessantly. and she's wearing low-cut dental assistant.
Oh, sexy dental
uniforms.
assistant, and they're like, that's a Halloween outfit. You shouldn't wear that to work, but she's doing it anyways.
And she's making comments. She's
giving you the look every once in a while.
Giving you the look. She's getting the water pick out, and
she's like, no, she's like has like a white T-shirt on. She's like spraying on herself accidentally.
Like, oh no, I got it all over my breath.
Wipe me down. You're like, all right.
That's one thing.
Yeah,
you could be like, okay, this is inappropriate. You're making me uncomfortable. You're making my wife uncomfortable with your rampant sexuality. This person's just doing her job, and the guy is the one with all these thoughts about this dental hygienist. It's basically completely his own shortcomings that led to her being fired.
Definitely.
And if you were going to fire her because of these issues, you don't say that that's the reason. Number one, you don't say, I have to fire you because I want to fuck you.
But what do you do in that situation then? If you do want to feel like
you manufacture some fake thing that she did wrong.
If this guy is really like a moral guy and has like a moral compass, and he thinks that this is gonna cripple his marriage, he's not gonna like lie about the reason he terminated some woman.
Well, if he's a really immoral guy with a moral compass, then he wouldn't worry that he was going to fuck this 32-year-old dental hygienist. He would say, well, I'm faithful to my wife, and it's fine.
Well, he just felt like it was a temptation that was a threat to him. I feel like I would be able to handle the situation better, and I'd be like, oh, there's an attractive dental hygienist in my office. It's not like destroying me, you know what I mean? I can handle myself around it. But apparently he felt like he couldn't do it.
Yeah. So I guess the conclusion we have to come to here is completely swayed by their own disgusting sexual urges, unable to avoid temptation.
Well,
and that's what men are like.
Well, yeah, okay, kind of, yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, he did like avoid his temptation
by firing her.
Yeah. That's what men are like.
Yeah, they like to wear black socks with khaki shorts. And on Sundays, instead of on the lawn, they like to eat hot wings, drink domestic beer, and watch endless stupid fucking sports. They're insensitive, so selfish too. We can't kill them all, so we'll just fucking have to fucking make do. Yeah, that's what men are like. That's what men are like. Talking about what men are like. Oh yeah. That's what men are
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Oh my God, I was getting so irritated looking through celebrity stories today because there were at least 9 different headlines of somebody's baby bump. Somebody looks...
Yeah, you hate baby bumps.
When the fuck did baby bump become common parlance? When did this happen? It is the most irritating phrase I've ever heard in my entire life.
You hate baby bumps and beach bods,
I hate beach bods and baby bumps.
Yeah.
I don't inherently hate beach bods.
Yeah.
I like women in bikinis if they have nice bodies. I don't want to call them beach bods, and I don't want to call a fucking pregnant woman. I don't want to say she has a baby bump. I don't know what it's. Oh, it's cute or something. It's so irritating to me. And there were literally 8 headlines. I can't even remember which celebrities there were, but like, look at Jessica Simpson with her baby bump. Look at this person with their baby
People
bump.
People are really interested in people's baby bumps.
What the fuck? So irritating. So this was me going through these stories like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And then I finally found a few stories. I don't know. Well, let's get into them here. One interesting one that I found kind of strange. I don't know if anyone remembers who Nick Stahl is. He was in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines as a young John Connor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never saw that, but he's been in a few things. He hasn't been doing much recently because he's been going crazy, apparently.
Oh, good for him.
Recently, he was missing for several days, and his wife was like, where the fuck is he? Can't find him. Finally, he turned up. He checked himself into rehab. Then he went missing from rehab again against the doctor's orders. He was gone again for a while. Most recently, He has been arrested at a porn shop for a lewd act. He didn't do it here. The Terminator 3, this is from Us Magazine. The Terminator 3, Rise of the Machine star was arrested Thursday, December 27th for allegedly committing a lewd act at a porn paraphernalia and movie shop in Los Angeles. According to TMZ, undercover Vice officers were conducting a routine check of the store when they discovered Stahl touching himself in a private booth. A private booth. Law
Why
enforcement.
are they doing that?
Okay, this is the same fucking thing with Fred Willard in the porn theater, jacking himself off. This is a porn store that has private booths for viewing pornography.
Yes.
The idea being that you go in there and jack off.
Again, it's a lewd act, I would think, if you're doing it in front of a school.
Yes.
Or like a nunnery.
Yes.
Lewd act. If you're going to a place where that goes on all the time, and
in
you're expecting to be around that in a private booth,
again, don't cops have anything better to do than hang out at the porn store and see if dudes are jerking off? I'm more worried about these cops. I don't know if they're like volunteering for this assignment.
Yeah, it's a weird
or
thing
what.
to be interested in because there are many crimes going on all the time, and there's lots of things that they could be enforcing. Worrying about someone jerking off in a private booth at a porn store?
Yeah.
You go ahead. Please do that.
Maybe if it were a Barnes & Noble, if it was a hot dog on a stick, you know?
If it was the middle of the mall food court.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Again, his representatives are saying that it was a misunderstanding. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure he was jerking off because he was
probably
in there
was,
watching porn.
but it's also like, who cares?
Again, though, I mean, as ridiculous as it is that he's arrested for something like this, if you're somebody who has any sort of celebrity, why do you go to a porn store and jerk off? There is the internet. You can sit in the privacy of your own home and jerk off. I guess there is some component of it's some weird, dirty thing to do or something.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
This is what I've heard. You know, I mean, just like with gay people still meeting at like rest stops and stuff like that, which apparently still goes on.
The foot tap,
especially
under the
with
stall
like
and things
the
like that.
Senior circuit.
Oh yeah.
Of closeted gay men.
Yeah.
Who are like, oh, that's what we were doing for years.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you don't really have to do that anymore. You know what I mean?
No,
not so much. I mean, it's a much more tolerant society.
There's the Grindr app on your iPhone.
There's a lot of different things you can do, but that's still, you know what I mean? Because that's like, I think it was a formative things for people.
Yeah, and
this may have been a formative and important like place for him in his sexuality.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? That maybe that's where he went when he was like a young man for
and
sexual gratification.
If you're going to do things like that, it is the whole process and where you're doing it, and that's what makes it titillating and exciting. Or something. But his wife, Rose Murphy, told Entertainment News that he wants to be well. He's a good man, and we want him home. So
it's weird because I thought the story was going to be much darker. Because you're like, he disappeared for a while. He left rehab, and I'm like, what did he do? What did he do? Oh, he's masturbating in a porn store.
Well, it's just a series of interesting events, I guess.
It's a series of interesting events that should have like, it seemed like they would escalate rather than just be like, it's not a big deal.
Angelica Houston named PETA Person of the Year. Angelica Houston has been crowned People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals Person of the Year for campaigning to keep chimpanzees out of TV commercials. So it's her fucking fault. That's why we don't have any more chimps in TV commercials.
What's wrong with having chimps in TV commercials?
Well, thanks to the Witches star's volunteerism and work as a narrator of a hard-hitting video expose about how great apes suffer in the entertainment industry, the top 10 advertising agencies in the U.S. have adopted policies to stop using chimps. PETA spokesperson says the actor sent her video to agency chiefs across the country showing them exactly how great apes are torn away from their mothers shortly after birth and frequently beaten during training to perform in ads for companies such as Dodge, Eurocar, Pfizer, Samsung, and Travelers Insurance.
Pfizer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's odd.
Houston also spoke out against New York's controversial horse-drawn carriage industry, and campaigned against the use of
just
fur.
like hansom cabs?
I guess not.
Is that an abuse of a horse?
Isn't that what they're for?
Yeah, I think that's the only reason they exist.
Well, you know, PETA doesn't want animals doing anything ever. They don't want dogs herding sheep, you know?
Yeah.
Even though these dogs have been bred for herding sheep and they want to herd sheep, that gives them a purpose in life.
Yeah.
Animals can never be subjected to slavery for the benefit of mankind, according to PETA. The chimps in commercials, I mean, when I was a little kid, I remember seeing things on like TNT or TBS or whatever where they had Lancelot Link, the chimp spy. You remember those?
What?
They're hilarious. He was dressed up in little suits and had sunglasses and guns.
This is a TV show?
Yeah, and there was the chick chimp. They'd be like, Lancelot Link. And their lips would move and he would go, ha, 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 and run around and fight crime. I have no
recollection of the city, but it sounds wonderful.
It was exciting.
Yeah.
So I was always a fan of that as a child. I guess there's better things for chimps to be doing than to be dancing for our amusement.
Just running around the jungle or whatever they do.
Yeah, they'd probably prefer that.
The weird thing about PETA is that they always take that next step, right? Because they could get everyone on their side if they're like, beating dogs is bad. People are like, yeah, beating dogs is bad.
Yeah.
But it's like the fact that you like have a dog in your house on a leash is bad. And you're like, whoa, well, you know.
I love animals, and I'm someone who does not want animals to be abused. I don't want animals to be mistreated, but I can't get behind PETA because they don't want me to wear leather. You know, like they don't want me to eat meat. They don't want us to do anything with animals ever. Yeah. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we like animals. We also think they're delicious sometimes.
They are delicious, and we like to wear their skins. Okay, here's a weird story. This is from Us Magazine. Kevin Federline's brother Christopher. I'm the true father of Britney Spears' son, Sean Preston.
No.
Britney Spears isn't quite feeling the family love this time of year. The X Factor judge who filed for divorce from ex-Kevin Federline back in 2006 is now being called a maniac by her former brother-in-law, Christopher. According to Radar Online, Christopher filed court papers seeking a restraining order against Britney, claiming that his brother's ex had, among other things, stolen his credit card, made fun of his manhood, and threatened to go public with the fact that he is the real father of her oldest son, Sean Preston.
Wait a second. He's worried about her ruining his reputation?
Yes.
That's absurd.
The funny thing is that he was getting a restraining order against her to prevent her from telling people that he was the father of her baby. And now he is going out and telling all these media outlets that he was getting a restraining order against her to prevent her from saying that he was the father of her baby. Obviously, he wants people to know that he's the father of her baby. But according to the papers that he filed, he said that Spears pocketed his Capital One credit card after finding it on Federline's coffee table while swinging by to pick up Sean Preston.
Those Vikings aren't going to be happy about that.
Spears, 31, then allegedly used his credit card to buy $4,569 worth of Archie and Betty Boop comics, as well as issues of Mad Magazine.
What?
When he reached out to Spears to dispute the charges, she, quote, laughed at me and told me my brother Kevin ruined her life. She told me I have a small penis. And then she also blackmailed me and told me if I tell the police that she stole my card, that she would tell the world I'm the true father of Sean Preston, not Kevin.
That's all insane. Everything in that story is crazy, right? Do you believe what he said?
Do I believe he's the father?
Do you believe Britney Spears was going out and buying Archie comics with Kevin Federline's brother's credit card?
It's a very specific figure, though. $4,569.
That accusation with the money and with the actual... who would make that up?
Do you think he went home to his girlfriend or something and she saw the credit card statement and was like, what the fuck? $4,569 worth of Archie and Betty Boop comics? And he's like, let me think fast. Britney Spears stole my card. She's going to tell everyone that I'm the father of her baby.
Well, maybe he had to play it off because he doesn't want his girlfriend to know that he did father the baby with Britney Spears.
Maybe, but now he's telling everyone that he did. And we don't know that he did. Apparently they did supposedly have sex. Maybe that's why she knows he has a tiny penis.
Okay. A little science talk here.
Okay.
If you do paternity test on the baby, because the two Federlines, obviously they share a lot of genetic material, can you determine if the baby belongs to one Federline or not?
I don't know. I know that you can tell if someone's related to you by blood. And obviously, two brothers, I would assume that you would be able to.
There'd be some sort of markers.
I'm not sure. Maybe if we have any geneticists in the audience, they could write in.
Because those two brothers are made of the same genetic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Any geneticists, please write in. We'd like to know.
So maybe he knows. Maybe he's intelligent enough to realize that this could never be disproved or something. Who knows?
Then why would he want to?
I don't know. It just doesn't make
it's just
sense.
Really strange.
It's like everyone knows that my brother is an asshole. Let me get a little bit of that asshole spotlight.
And getting the small penis out there in the media too.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that weird?
That's the weird thing about the story, right?
Yeah.
Because he looks like an idiot in the story, so...
He does. But there's a story.
Yeah, that's all that matters. That's right.
Yeah.
As long as you're in the news, you're happy.
To end Celebrity Minute for this week, I just thought this was an interesting article. There was a anonymous article written by a exec, I'm assuming a Hollywood executive, or maybe it was a news executive, I'm not sure, wrote the story for The Hollywood Reporter where he bitches about the pervasiveness of Twitter and tweeting.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of on board with this. I'll just read some of this article here. We all have a lot of hopes for the new year. Most of them, face it, we can't do anything about. But some are within our power to change, to crush, to eradicate, to blot from the face of the frickin' earth. And in regards to that, I will now make a modest proposal. How about we all get together and stop bogus tweeting and the bogus tweeters who tweet their bogus tweets? Okay, it's a small thing, but it would make this world so much better. Because I don't know about you, but the lame, the stupid, the shallow, the foolish, and the totally moronic tweets of the past year are still sticking to the bottom of my mind like dirty bubblegum on the bottom of my mental shoes. Get it off, help! I'm not even following the bozos or their 140-character effluvia, and you don't have to follow them to be slimed continually, because every little itty-bitty blob of digital sputum that's launched into the ecosystem, every brain fart that hits the communal ozone layer is picked up by the 24/7 foghorn that never stops bleeding. And so I know what the proprietor of the New York Post thinks about the Jewish media. I know that Donald Trump never fails to conform to our expectations of him as the president of the lunatic fringe. I even know what Kesha looks like when she's peeing. Yes, I do, and I don't want any of it. Get them all out of here. Basically, he goes on saying that it's not just the idiot tweeters who are the problem, but the people who constantly retweet them.
Yeah.
And then lose the slow-moving 127-car pileup as yet another child actor bipolarizes into oblivion in full public view. Most of all, frickin' squelch anything marketed to our tiny minds by their repulsive parents, siblings, or other sycophants, and seriously censor all media outlets that cover it as if it were real news. The random tweets of a poisonous few do not a national story make. Tweets are not news, people. They are what we choose to focus on instead of news. They are proof of how truly insignificant the culture in which we all now live is. And who needs to look at that every day? Shouldn't we all be looking at something else?
This guy should probably stop just looking at Twitter, I guess.
He seems a little annoyed.
Yeah,
but
I wonder if he's been slandered on Twitter, possibly.
I do get his point, though, where even if you don't follow any of these vacuous celebrities, you are constantly barraged from news outlets talking about tweets that celebrities have posted.
Well, but I mean, that's what's in demand. That's what people want to hear.
It's annoying.
It's very annoying. But I know that during some recent news events, people have seen tweets and started reporting tweets.
Oh, yeah, and then been completely wrong because
people, well, I know people have just been screwing with the media, too, just like tweeting things that they're making up, and then people like start reporting it.
Remember when, well, I don't know if this ever happened, but supposedly when news outlets would have to fact check, they would have to corroborate stories and make sure that what they were saying was true before reporting something.
But now people are afraid of like getting behind the story.
Well, it's because 24-hour news cycle and instant news because everything's online, and so you just have to go blah and shove something out there, hope to God that it's true, and if it's not true, they don't really even care.
I know during Hurricane Sandy, some blogger I think worked on Wall Street or a tweeter who worked on Wall Street was tweeting about how like the floor of the stock exchange was like flooded and stuff, and that was getting like reported in the news, and he was just doing it because he thought it was funny because it's like I'm just writing random things on my Twitter account and you're like reporting it as news.
Yeah,
you should just like not report things unless you actually know what's going on. You shouldn't just regurgitate people's tweets. Unless they're extremely credible people.
Unless they're from the Warren and Bradley show.
Yeah. What are our tweets are mostly just about the content of the show.
Yes.
Which is pretty accurate, right?
Right. And which makes sense, you know? It's not just vacuous minutia from our daily lives. It's like, hey.
Well, that's what the show is.
Well,
so
yeah.
it kind of is.
But, you know, yeah. Shut up. And this has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley show.
Yeah.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts.
Bear $1
and give me a motherfucking cigarette.
Ran out of gas ways back.
You smoke weed, don't you?
Good.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
So I'm hesitant to even report the Street Freak of the Week.
No.
It is a sad, tragic tale, one that I can't help but feel maybe is partially my fault. because we've shed the spotlight on so many street freaks in Bellingham, I think maybe the street freaks are trying to live up to our notice. They're acting out in ways that maybe they think are hilarious, but I don't think are necessarily something that needs to be seen in public. The other day, I was standing out on the corner. No street freaks in sight, and I was starting to worry that I wasn't going to have a street freak of the week for this week's episode. But then my street freak sense started tingling. I had like a disturbance in the force, and there was something telling me to move down the block. And so,
really?
Seriously, well,
okay.
So I picked up my coffee off the R2D2 where it was resting, and moseyed on down the block. And as I approached the corner, I noticed a scuffle was taking place.
Uh-oh.
Now let me set the stage for you. I saw two struggling bodies standing on the corner, locked in mortal combat, and around them were various other street freaks, some of the best and brightest from former Street Freaks of the Week. We had flamboyantly gay homeless man was there.
Oh yeah, people love him. Pirate homeless man,
yes,
right?
Yeah, the flamboyantly gay pirate homeless man. Gallagher was there, the one who was worshiping his coffee. The twitchy guy who was worried about the video cameras and microphones and all the flower pots.
Oh sure, yeah.
They were all standing around cheering on this fight that was taking place. I got closer and saw, locked in combat, the shit on his pants recorder selling homeless man.
Oh, no.
I'm sure all of our audience members will remember this guy.
Yeah.
He was the one who had the very nice haircut and the puffy plaid shirt tucked into his jeans, but then his jeans were covered in his own shit.
That's right.
He was locked in combat with this guy who I had never seen before, but he had very, very long, like, death metal hair. And I don't know what started the fight. I don't know what brought it about. And I know, in the past there was that horrible series of, like, bum fights where people would go, ha, ha, ha. And, like,
they put it on the internet?
Well, they'd pay bums to fight each other.
Oh, yeah.
And then put it on the internet. And it was horrible and awful. I did not ask these people to fight.
No.
I don't know what caused the fight. It was sort of like a girl fight, where you see girls, like, they're just kind of grabbing each other and, like, wrestling around. They're not punching.
They're trying to end it, really. They're just trying to just wrestle around each other.
It's not a lot of training involved.
No.
I don't think they're working out on a heavy bag or anything like that. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. They were yelling things at each other, but I couldn't piece together what had caused the fight. And there were normals kind of like walking around just sort of out of the corner of their eye, didn't want to look, but didn't want to,
well, it's awkward. Who wants to get in the middle of
it? Yeah. But I think if it had been like, I don't know, if I had been attacked by just some other normal dude in the street, people might have gotten involved. But since it's homeless people, they're just like, just leave them to their homelessness.
And I'm not going to judge people for doing that, because it's like, well, the same thing we said before, like, if I saw you or somebody else, like a normal, as you say, lay in the street desperately looking for help, or just on the side of the road unconscious, I'd be like, oh, can I help you? Can I help you? If I did see one of these people laying on the side of the street unconscious, I would just assume that that's what they were doing, right? You know what I mean?
I guess.
It's like they're two different things.
If his head was cracked open and blood was pouring out,
but I mean, if there's just a couple like homeless guys like rolling around the ground, it's like there's no reason for them to be doing that. They probably won't get hurt. What am I going to do to stop that?
Yeah. So they were locked in combat.
Yeah.
And it was basically just them like wrestling around. And the shit on his pants recorder selling homeless guy, he's a big strapping lad.
Yeah.
And he's probably in his late 20s maybe. Mm-hmm. He kind of looks like the guy, he has that haircut where it's kind of shaved up on the sides and slicked back, sort of like, I don't know, you could imagine him in the 30s or 40s working for the Forest Service or something.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you know what that means.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And they're just struggling around. And finally, the shit on his pants recorder selling homeless guy grabs a big hank of the long-haired homeless man's hair.
Yeah.
And just yanks it out of his head.
Oh, God.
Huge tuft of hair.
Ugh.
And he goes, ah! And grabs the top of his head and stumbles back. And the flamboyantly gay pirate homeless man is like, ha, ha, ha! Starts laughing hysterically. And the shit on his pants recording selling homeless man holds the hank of hair up and gives this look at his defeated opponent. Like, look at this. I've got your hair. And then he very disdainfully just flutters his fingers and lets the hank of hair just fall to the ground.
A hank? Is this the word we're using now?
That's a word. A hank of hair.
A hank of hair?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, look it up.
Okay.
And so he just throws the hair to the ground.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the fight. And by that time, cops had come. But the cops kind of waited for it to be over, too.
Well, yeah, I would, too.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you know what I mean? It's not like somebody's being mugged or anything.
Well,
it's just a couple of people that are just, like, rolling around the ground. They're doing those people are doing weird things all day long, right?
I know.
They're doing completely crazy things. And as long as no one's, like, life looks like it's at risk at that point, you kind of let it play out until it's a little bit easier. You don't want to get in there and start fighting with them. They end up, like, punching the police officer if they get involved, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And then they have to arrest them, and it turns into this whole ordeal.
So it was kind of sad. I didn't want to see this violence out on the street. I like it when the homeless people just do quirky, funny things for our amusement. But one thing that kind of redeemed it, just a few days later, the same shit on his pants, recorder-selling homeless man was walking around on the street, and there were these dirty hippies that were juggling out on the corner.
Yeah.
And a dirty hippie was juggling with limes. He had 3 limes that he was juggling.
It's a good juggling thing.
Yeah. And, he was juggling, whatever. I guess that's exciting. I don't know.
But yeah. It gets attention, yeah.
Yeah, he had his little hat out there waiting for people to put money in. And the shit on his pants recorder-selling homeless guy, I don't know if he had gotten put in jail or not, but they just let him go the next day, usually, if anything happens. He walks up to the hippie who's juggling, and he starts talking to the hippie. And the hippie's, like, talking to the guy juggling. And at one point, the shit on his pants recording-selling homeless guy goes, ha! Launches forward with his mouth and grabs one of the limes out of the fucking air.
Oh, no.
Yes. And goes, ah! And bites down on it, and juice goes all over. And then he goes, ha, 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 ha! And takes the lime out and puts it on the ground. And then the hippie's just like, oh, man, with his 2 limes in his hand. And then the shit on his pants recorder-playing homeless man walked away.
Isn't that incredibly hard to do?
I used to have a dog who, whenever I ate popcorn, she would beg for popcorn.
Yeah.
And I would throw it in a high arc, and she could always just snatch it out of the air. And I was always very impressed by her ability to do that. And that was just basically what the shit on his pants recorder-selling homeless man
I
had
think
done.
you could have a bunch of limes here and throw them up in the air for me and see if I could, like, bite them into my mouth like that. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
You could do it, like, hundreds of them. I don't think I could do it.
It was amazing. It just like, pa-choom, went out and grabbed the lime.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it was exciting.
But it is disappointing for the hippie.
Well,
you need 3 limes to juggle.
Dirty hippie. Go to hell. I was just glad that whatever had caused the fight between the long-haired homeless man and the shit on his pants recording-selling homeless man, whatever demons had needed to be exorcised had been exorcised, and then he was just back to doing his delightful homeless things for our amusement.
Of course. The cops know that. Everyone that was walking by knew that, right? Yeah. They're doing something weird.
Well, I was worried for a little bit.
It'll pass. As long as he's not, like, grabbing the hair out of old ladies that are walking on the street, well, I'll be fine.
Well, they seem to know to only annoy each other and hippies.
Yeah.
And as long as that's the case, then everything's
We have
fine.
no problems with them.
All is right with the world.
Exactly.
So congratulations, shit on his pants recorder-selling Hank of hair grabbing.
Is this the first repeat winner?
I think flamboyantly gay pirate homeless man has won a couple times.
He was
too.
involved in that other time.
Yeah.
That's right. The second 2-time winner.
Congratulations. You've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street
Congratulations.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week. This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast at warrenandbradley.com.
I'd thrown up from being sick, and it's been a long, long time. But even then, if I've had a stomach flu or something like that, you're like, and you throw up, and you feel better afterwards, and you're like, okay, that wasn't too bad. This time, I ran into the bathroom, barely made it to the toilet in time, and threw up with such violence that it was like splashing back into the toilet and like getting all over my face.
Really?
I was just like, oh, just this projectile vomiting. And it was the kind of thing where I would heave a few times like, then I would stop for a second and like catch my breath and just like, oh God. Oh my God. And then again, vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. It was ridiculous.
That sounds like food poisoning.
It seemed like it. And then pretty much all night long, I would crawl into my bed and I was all like sweaty and shaky. And then I'd get up again and vomit some more. And then, I don't know, I think I finally got to bed at about 5 a.m. Christmas morning. And then I was supposed to go over to my mom's for scones in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God. And so I managed to crawl over there late and was just sitting there trying to keep myself from throwing up.
Did you have any scones?
No, I did not have any scones. I had a piece of toast. And then all my siblings and I all had tickets to go to Django Unchained because it was opening on Christmas. And I was like, God damn it, because I couldn't get a refund because I'd gotten my ticket through Fandango. So I'm like, all right, we'll go see the movie. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't tell you if it was any good because the whole time I was just fighting back the urge to vomit, and I had this horrible pounding headache, and it was just like rocking back and forth in my chair.
Huh.
It was miserable.
Flu then, huh? If it lasts for that long.
Maybe. I don't know. And then I got home and I was supposed to go to my mom's for Christmas dinner and I just couldn't go. And basically, so the only thing I had to eat of all the bounty that you would normally have during Christmas was a piece of toast. And I didn't eat another meal until I think the day after Christmas. I finally had, I think, a burrito. That evening.
Burrito. The traditional day after Christmas burrito.
That's what the Catholics would do.
Yeah.
So it was fun. And I've basically been sick the whole rest of the week, and I'm sort of feeling better today. I haven't vomited anything recently, and I'm actually eating meals again, so...
Oh, these are all steps in the right direction.
Yeah, so it's been fun. Happy fucking Christmas.
I didn't have anything that great happen to me. I just sat around, played with my sister's dog, pet the dog, a bunch. Watch basketball, because there are many basketball games on all day. And had our traditional turkey loaf.
The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
It is December 29th as we're recording the show. Had a Christmas week going on. How was your Christmas, Warren?
Oh, it was fine. I did get some socks.
Oh.
I got some underwear.
Ooh.
So it worked out good for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
I got a horrible flu for Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
It was fucking horrible. I had 2 days off. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy myself, have a little loaf.
Yes.
What?
Well, it's this Jenny O giant nugget of turkey.
This is what you eat for Christmas dinner?
Yes.
What is
and you
wrong
slice
with
it up, and you have little slices of this like loaf of turkey. I love it.
They don't make a real turkey?
No, we could, but that's what we want. My siblings and I have grown accustomed to this loaf.
Well, I know. I don't know if I think I've talked about this before on the show. When I would go to your house for dinner as a kid, you guys would always have beefaroni or like
it wasn't always the best.
Strange canned things, or like I remember crushed up saltines at one point on something. I don't know. I don't even know what the meal was, and because my mom has always been a really good cook and like a very traditional cook. And so I got used to that as a child, and then I'd go to other people's houses, and there'd be just these weird adulterated versions of things that I had been used to eating as a child.
Lots of just kind of like slopped together and thrown out there.
Yeah.
And then if you're eating like that most of the time, I guess you get pretty excited when you get the turkey loaf,
Right.
You're like, oh, good, this is good.
Well, and I guess you
one.
develop a taste for the strange preservative-filled canned goods. Did you eat a lot of Spam as a child?
No, I've never had Spam.
I've never had Spam either.
I know. I always think it would be a good thing to try.
Yeah,
I don't know why I have never tried. It's not. I don't think it's very expensive. I probably could pick some up.
I don't know. It's just a little turkey at my mom's house. Christmas Eve, went to my dad's for Christmas Eve dinner. Got the whole divorced parent thing, so I have to do the two holidays.
I do that too.
these modern times we live in.
Yeah.
And went over there, and they always have this kind of buffet style, all these like finger foods, and you just
people are just coughing all over that stuff, left and right.
Well, there was a thing of cocktail shrimp and the cocktail sauce.
Yeah.
And I love shrimp.
Yeah.
And so I was just like gorging myself on these shrimp. And then, I don't know, we got done about 8 o'clock. I went home. And by the time I got home, I was like, rolling around on my bed. My stomach was all bloated and distended. And I was like,
oh my,
coughing up stomach acid and just like, feeling horrible and getting all shaky and sweaty.
Well, I saw a post on Facebook about you having food poisoning.
Well, I was convinced that's what it was initially because, I felt fine, ate all this shrimp, and then I was rolling around in my bed at home dying. And finally, by about 10 o'clock, as I had to lay on my back because I couldn't put any pressure on my stomach because it was in such pain. And then suddenly I was like, ugh, and ran into the bathroom and was the most violently ill I think I've ever been in my entire life.
Really?
I was trying to remember the last time